It did make me feel really good because they found out who he was just around my birthday, my 103rd birthday, so I think he was killed over there in the grave. They never ever knew his name.
Mrs. Donovan is Private George Littleboy's oldest living relative. For more than 100 years, his final resting place was a mystery.
He's actually my great uncle. So yeah, these are the postcards that he wrote back from France. So he wasn't in France very long. He enlisted in 31st of January 1916. He did 3 months initial service in Australia. He embarked Sydney in May 1916, and through Egypt and the UK, he was in England for a while, and he only landed in France on the 25th of November 1916, and he was then killed on the night of the 26th of February the following year. So he wasn't there very long. But these are the cards he sent over in that little time that he was in France.
Extensive research between charity, fallen diggers and the Australian Defence Force only recently found his grave, giving the family closure.
I'm getting goosebumps as we speak. To the fact that his 103-year-old niece was able to get the news on her birthday, it's just the emotions that flows through is just unbelievable. Fallen Diggers is a not-for-profit organisation that researches missing World War I and World War II Australian soldiers, and we do it in two ways. One is identifying unknown Australians in cemeteries around the world, and also battlefield archaeology. We've got a team of archaeologists and we go to France and Belgium and go to places where we believe there's Australian burials. In all the cases we've been successful with, that's the only third person that we found with a direct relative, and it's amazing, and it is a race against time because they're all sadly passing away, and the younger generation of that family don't really know what the families have suffered and went through, and to hear from them first-hand experience, it gives us extra motive to even push further along to find more soldiers quicker. After Vietnam War, they were bringing the soldiers back home after 1965, but anything prior to that, they need to. These men made the ultimate sacrifice in fighting for their country, and a lot of them went off as young boys thinking it's a big adventure, and were sadly dealt with the realities of war, and the ones that did come back were broken, and the ones who were left behind, we should find them, and do all our best to find them.
So the 3rd Australian Division were operating near Armentières. Private Littleboy was a member of the 42nd Battalion, and on the 25th of February 1917, the 42nd Battalion were tasked with sending out a wiring party and a small covering party to provide protection. Private Littleboy was a member of the covering party. During that operation, they were hit by German machine gun fire and were forced to withdraw with several people wounded. And when they withdrew, 2 people were missing. That was Private Littleboy and Private McKee. Private McKee was confirmed to be a POW in German hands, and Private Littleboy, who was mortally wounded at the time, was also in German hands at that time. He was then buried in a German cemetery. After the war, his body was recovered from there and reinterred in Rue Petillon Cemetery near Fromelles. And it's the ultimate honour that we pay to fallen soldiers that died during conflicts by giving their names back on their headstones. It's very difficult because we can't exhume the remains from a gravesite of an unknown soldier. So it's all based on historical research, investigation, and gets on how much documented information is available on the records. So it can be very difficult. If anybody, any relatives of missing soldiers could register with us on our database, they can do that by just Googling unrecovered war casualties and then doing an online submission registration of their contact details. Because when we're doing these types of investigations or investigations into actual human remains, we can't be successful in doing this without contacting with the family. Families provide us with DNA to compare against the remains that we find. Families help us with the research on the soldiers.
You know, he was only very young, and that could be my disappointing thing, that a whole lot of young men that age went overseas at the time, and the same sort of thing happened. They lost their lives in battle to save us, to keep our life free. And that's a heck of a thing to lay down your life for, eh?
Thank God he's been found. So I want to thank him all for going to all that trouble, because it makes me feel much better.